Dr. Jinwoo Kim rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the glowing message above his desk for the fourth time. The blue hologram showed the scary symbol of the Krillian Empire, a planet full of warrior aliens who could tear apart metal with their bare hands. But the message they sent him was strange. Very strange. They wanted to watch their kids? Jinwoo said to himself, shaking his head. He was a scientist who studied alien creatures, not a babysitter. The door to his small lab opened with a soft hiss. Commander Hygiene Park walked in, and Jinwoo could tell from her face that something was wrong. She had that look she got when bad news was coming. "Jinwoo, we need to talk," she said, sitting down across from his messy desk. Papers about alien biology were scattered everywhere, and empty coffee cups formed small towers near his computer. "Let me guess. This is about the Krillian message." Jinwoo pointed at the hologram still floating in the air. Hygiene nodded slowly. "It's not really babysitting. Jinwoo, these are 3 young Krillian nobles. Their parents have to go to something called the Grand War Council. It's very important for their people." "Okay, so why don't their own people watch the kids?" "That's the problem." Hygiene touched her tablet and showed him 3 files. Every single Krillian guardian has said no. All of them. These aren't normal Krillian children. Jinwoo leaned forward in his chair. Krillians never said no to anything that involved honor or duty. They were proud warriors who would rather die than look weak. If they were all refusing this job, something was very wrong. "What makes these kids so special?" he asked. Hygiene's face got more serious. "They're in their adolescent phase. Do you know what that means for Krillians?" Jinwoo had studied this in books, but he had never seen it in real life. Their hunting instincts wake up. They become dangerous. More than dangerous. These 3 have apex predator genetics. That means they're stronger and faster than normal Krillians. Their reflexes are so quick, they can catch bullets, and their territorial instincts. She paused and looked at her tablet. "Jinwoo, they put 14 trained Krillian warriors in the hospital. 14. These are soldiers who fight space pirates for fun." Jinwoo felt his heart beat faster. As a scientist, this was exciting. As a human who wanted to stay alive, this was terrifying. How old are they exactly? In human years, they will be 13 to 15. Old enough that their bodies know how to hunt and kill, but too young to control those urges. Think of them as teenage sharks with the intelligence of adult humans. The room was quiet for a moment. Jinwoo could hear the soft hum of the space station's engines and the distant sound of people talking in the hallways. "Why me?" he finally asked. "I study aliens, but I've never taken care of any. Especially not ones that could kill me by accident." Hygiene smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "The Krillians are desperate, Jinwoo. They've tried everyone else. Now they want to try humans. They think we're weak and soft, so maybe we won't trigger their children's hunting instincts." "Great. So I'm supposed to be so pathetic that killer alien teenagers ignore me?" "Something like that." Hygiene leaned back in her chair. "But there's more. The Krillians are offering us something incredible if you succeed. They'll give us access to their bioenhancement technology. That's medical science that's hundreds of years ahead of ours. It could help millions of humans." Jinwoo stared at the hologram again. The Krillian Empire's symbol seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. He had spent his whole life studying alien creatures from far away, always wishing he could get closer. Now he had the chance to study the most dangerous young predators in the galaxy up close. "What happens if I say no?" he asked. "The Krillians will figure something else out. But Jinwoo, this could be the discovery of a lifetime. No human has ever spent time with young Krillians during their predator phase. The things you could learn." Jinwoo stood up and walked to the small window in his lab. Outside, stars twinkled in the endless darkness of space. Somewhere out there was a planet full of warrior aliens who needed help with their most dangerous children. How long would I be gone? 2 weeks. Maybe 3. Jinwoo turned back to face Hygiene. She was watching him carefully, waiting for his answer. He thought about his comfortable lab, his safe research, his quiet life studying alien creatures from a distance. Then he thought about 3 teenage alien predators who had already injured 14 trained soldiers. "When does the transport ship leave?" he asked. Hygiene's eyes widened with surprise. Gene Wu, are you sure? No, he said honestly. But I'm going anyway. When do I leave? 6 hours, she said, standing up quickly. I'll start preparing your equipment. She walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back at him. Gene Wu. Yeah. Try to come back alive, okay? Gene Wu looked at the hologram one more time, then turned it off. I'll do my best. The spaceship landed on Krill Prime with a loud thud that made Gene Wu's teeth rattle. Through the small window, he could see the alien planet's red sky and strange purple plants. Everything looked dangerous. Even the rocks seemed to have sharp edges. War leader Thrak was waiting for him at the landing pad. The Krillian warrior was huge, almost 8 feet tall, with dark fur and muscles that looked like they could crush steel. His yellow eyes studied Gene Wu like he was looking at a piece of meat. Human, Thrak said in his deep, growling voice. The small translator device on Gene Wu's collar turned the alien words into English. You are smaller than I expected. Gene Wu picked up his bag and followed the giant alien warrior. I get that a lot. They walked through the Krillian city, and Gene Wu tried not to stare. Everything was built for creatures much bigger and stronger than humans. The buildings looked like metal mountains with sharp spikes sticking out everywhere. Other Krillians they passed stopped to look at Gene Wu with curious yellow eyes. The fortress nursery is ahead, Thrak said, pointing with one clawed finger. Gene Wu looked up and felt his mouth fall open. The building in front of them was enormous, like a castle made of black metal. It rose up into the red sky like a giant's tower. Deep scratches covered the walls, and some of them looked fresh. Those marks, Gene Wu said, pointing at the scratches. What made them? The cubs, Thrak replied simply. They practiced their hunting skills on everything. They walked through long hallways inside the fortress. The walls here had even more claw marks, some so deep that Gene Wu could stick his whole hand inside them. The air smelled like metal, and something else Gene Wu couldn't identify. Something wild. Listen carefully, human. Thrak stopped walking and turned to face Gene Wu. His yellow eyes were very serious. These are not human children. They are not pets you can play with. They are future apex hunters. Their bodies and minds are built for one thing, killing. Gene Wu nodded, even though his hands were starting to shake a little. You must show them you're the leader, or they will see you as prey. Do you understand? Prey gets eaten. I understand, Gene Wu said, hoping his voice sounded braver than he felt. They stopped in front of a thick metal door. It looked strong enough to stop a tank. Through a small window made of super strong glass, Gene Wu could see inside the room. 3 shapes moved in the shadows. Even from outside, Gene Wu could tell they were dangerous. They moved like wild cats, smooth and silent, always ready to jump or attack. One of them was bigger than the others, with silver fur that caught the light. A smaller one with darker fur stayed in the shadows, watching everything. The youngest hung upside down from metal bars on the ceiling, like it was the most normal thing in the world. The silver one is Razor, Thrak explained, his voice getting quieter. He is the oldest and the most angry. His claws can cut through steel, and his temper is worse than a solar storm. He has hurt more Guardians than the other 2 combined. Gene Wu watched Razor pace around the room, like a caged tiger. Even through the thick glass, he could feel the young alien's anger. The female is Echo, Thrak continued. She is smart, very smart. She does not attack with claws like Razor. She uses her mind to find your weaknesses. She will study you, learn about you, and then use what she knows to hurt you. Several Guardians went crazy trying to understand her games. The female Krillian seemed to know they were watching her. She looked right at Gene Wu through the window and smiled, showing teeth that looked like white daggers. And the small one is Spike. Do not let his size fool you. Human. He killed his first training robot when he was only 10 years old. He is fast like lightning and quiet like shadow. The others you will see coming. Spike, you will not. As if he heard his name, Spike dropped from the ceiling and landed without making any sound at all. He was smaller than the others, but something about him made Gene Wu's skin crawl. His eyes were too bright, too intelligent for someone so young. Ready? Thrak asked, putting his big hand on the door control. Jinwoo's heart was beating so fast he thought it might jump out his chest. As ready as I'll ever be. The door opened with a deep, rumbling sound like thunder. Immediately, 3 pairs of glowing eyes turned to look at Jinwoo. The room suddenly felt much colder. Thrak's voice boomed in the sudden quiet. Cubs, this is your new guardian. Try not to kill him too quickly. The clan would be embarrassed. Then the big warrior turned and walked away, leaving Jinwoo alone with 3 teenage alien predators who were already starting to circle him like hungry sharks. Razor was the first to speak. His voice was soft and smooth, but it made Jinwoo think of a snake getting ready to bite. Look what they brought us, Razor said, his glowing eyes never leaving Jinwoo's face. A soft, pink, breakable little human. How long do you think you will last, little human? 1 day? 2 days? Or will you run away before morning like the others? Jinwoo stood very still and tried not to show how scared he was. This was going to be much harder than he thought. Jinwoo woke up on his second morning to find his breakfast floating in purple slime. Echo sat in the corner, trying to look innocent, but her glowing eyes gave her away. She had mixed cleaning chemicals into his food dispenser during the night. Very creative, Jinwoo said, dumping the ruined food into the waste unit. But next time, try something that won't poison me. Dead guardians are boring. Echo's ears twitched with surprise. The other guardians had always gotten angry when she played tricks on them. This human just seemed interested. Every day brought new tests. Razor would suddenly jump at Jinwoo with his claws out, stopping just inches from his face to see if the human would scream. Spike liked to drop from the ceiling behind Jinwoo, landing silently to see if he would jump with fear. Echo tried different mind games, pretending to be hurt or scared to see how Jinwoo would react. But Jinwoo did something strange. He never tried to fight them or yell at them like the other guardians had done. Instead, he pulled out a small electronic tablet and started taking notes about everything they did. Razor shows dominance through physical intimidation, he said out loud while typing. Echo prefers psychological manipulation. Spike uses stealth and surprise. The 3 young Krillians stopped their games and stared at him. What are you doing? Razor demanded, his silver fur bristling with anger. Studying you. Jinwoo replied without looking up from his tablet. You're the most interesting subjects I've ever observed. On the 3rd day, Razor got tired of being ignored. He stood right in front of Jinwoo and puffed out his chest. Fight me, human, he growled. Prove you are strong enough to be our guardian. Jinwoo looked up from his notes and shook his head. No, no. Razor's voice got louder. You refuse to fight? Then you are weak. I'm smart, Jinwoo corrected him. Fighting you would be stupid. You're faster, stronger, and have natural weapons. I would lose. Razor looked confused. Every other guardian had either tried to fight him or ran away scared. This human was doing neither. But Jinwoo continued, reaching into his bag. I bet you can't solve this puzzle in less than 1 hour. He pulled out a strange cube made of metal and colored lights. It looked simple, but when Jinwoo twisted one part, all the lights changed colors in a complex pattern. Razor stared at the cube. His pride as a future hunter was being challenged, but in a way he had never experienced before. This is foolish, he said, but he took the cube anyway. Meanwhile, Echo tried a different approach. She lay on the floor and made small crying sounds, pretending to be hurt and scared. Help me, she whimpered. I'm in pain. Jinwoo walked over and knelt down beside her, but instead of panicking or calling for help like the other guardians had done, he smiled. That's a good start, he said. But human negotiators use a more subtle approach. Let me show you how to make your voice sound more convincing. Echo stopped pretending to cry and sat up, her yellow eyes wide with curiosity. You want to teach me? She asked. Why not? You're already naturally good at reading people. With the right training, you could be an expert. For the next hour, Jinwoo taught Echo about human psychology, explaining how to tell when someone was lying and how to make people trust you. She listened to every word, her intelligent mind absorbing the information like a sponge. Spike watched all of this from his favorite spot hanging upside down from the ceiling bars. On the fourth morning, he dropped down silently behind Jinwoo as usual, but this time he didn't try to scare him. "You're different," Spike said in his quiet voice. "The others were afraid of us. You study us like we're puzzles to solve." Jinwoo turned around and smiled at the youngest Krillian. "Fear makes you stupid, and stupid guardians get their charges killed. But we are predators," Spike pointed out. "We are dangerous." "So are humans," Jinwoo replied, "just in different ways." The real change happened on the fifth day. Razor was showing off, trying to jump from one high platform to another across the room. He wanted to prove that humans were inferior, that their guardian was weak compared to Krillian's strength. But he jumped too far and hit the wall hard. His shoulder made a nasty popping sound as he fell to the floor. Echo and Spike rushed to help him, but they didn't know what to do. Previous guardians would have screamed for help or fainted at the sight of injury. Jinwoo calmly walked over and knelt beside the hurt young alien. "Hold still," he said in a quiet, confident voice. "Let me look at that shoulder." Razor was in too much pain to argue. Jinwoo carefully examined the injury with gentle hands, then opened his medical kit. "It's dislocated, not broken," he explained as he cleaned the wound. "This will hurt for a moment, but then it will feel much better." As he worked, Jinwoo started talking about something unexpected. "You know, humans are persistent predators," he said while bandaging Razor's shoulder. "We're not as fast as you, and we don't have claws or sharp teeth, but we have something else." All three young Krillians were listening now, even Razor despite his pain. "We never give up, and we hunt in groups, working together. One human alone might not be dangerous, but a group of humans working together can take down prey much bigger and stronger than themselves." Razor winced as Jinwoo finished the bandage, but his eyes were thoughtful. "You mean like a pack?" Echo asked. "Exactly like a pack," Jinwoo confirmed. "Each member has different skills, but together they're unstoppable." For the first time since Jinwoo had arrived, all three younglings sat quietly and listened without planning their next trick or test. Jinwoo was dreaming about his home on Earth when a loud alarm woke him up. The sound was so sharp and scary that it made his heart jump. Red lights started flashing all around the room, making everything look like it was covered in blood. But Jinwoo wasn't the first one awake. Razor, Echo, and Spike were already standing up, their glowing eyes wide and alert. Their ears were pointed forward, and their fur was standing on end like cats who had sensed danger. "What's happening?" Jinwoo asked, jumping out of his bed. The Fortress computer's voice filled the room with its cold, mechanical tone. "Warning. Enemy ships are attacking. Our defense weapons are broken. All doors are now locked for safety." Echo's fur bristled even more, and she made a low, growling sound in her throat. "Raiders," she hissed. "Bad people who steal children. They want to kidnap us and sell us for money." Jinwoo ran to the thick window and looked outside. In the red light of Krill Prime's dawn, he could see dark figures moving through the courtyard below. They carried big guns and moved like soldiers. There were at least 12 of them, maybe more. "Where are the fortress defenses?" Jinwoo asked. "The automatic weapons should be shooting at them." "Someone turned them off," Spike said from where he hung on the ceiling. His young voice was calm, but Jinwoo could hear the anger underneath. "Someone helped him get in." Razor extended his claws until they were as long as kitchen knives. They made a metallic sound as they came out. "We fight them," he said, his silver fur shining in the red light. "We show them what happens when they threaten Krillian nobles." "No," Jinwoo said quickly. "Wait." All three young aliens turned to stare at him with surprise. Their eyes glowed brighter when they were excited or angry. "Wait," Razor repeated. "They come to kidnap us, and you want us to wait?" Jinwoo pulled out his small tablet computer and started touching the screen quickly. "We think first, then we fight. Fighting without a plan is how people get killed." The tablet showed him a map of the fortress. Jinwoo studied it carefully, his mind working as fast as it could. There were 4 of them against 12 or more trained fighters. The raiders had big guns and military experience. But Jinwoo and the young Krillians had advantages too, if they used them right. "Listen to me," Jinwoo said, looking at each of the three younglings. We can't fight them the normal way. We're outnumbered, and they have better weapons. But we can be smarter than them. Echo crouched low, her ears forward with interest. What do you mean? Jinwoo pointed at Razor. You're the strongest and the loudest. I need you to stay here by the door. When they try to break in, fight them, but don't try to win. Just make lots of noise and keep their attention on you. Razor looked confused. You want me to lose? I want you to be bait, Jinwoo explained. While they're focused on fighting you, Echo and Spike will attack them from behind. He turned to Echo. You know every hiding place in this fortress, right? Every shadow, every secret passage. Echo nodded, her yellow eyes bright with understanding. Good. Use the air vents to get behind the raiders. You're smart and quiet. Wait until they're all focused on fighting Razor, then cause confusion. Make them panic. Finally, Jinwoo looked up at Spike, who was still hanging upside down from the ceiling bars. You're the fastest and the most sneaky. The weapons room is 3 floors down. Can you get there without being seen? Spike dropped to the floor without making any sound at all. What kind of weapons? Stun guns. The kind that knock people out but don't kill them. We want to capture these raiders, not turn them into enemies forever. For a moment, nobody spoke. Jinwoo wondered if the 3 young aliens would listen to him. All their lives, they had been taught that strength and fighting were the most important things. Now a weak human was asking them to work together like a team. Then Spike smiled, showing his sharp white teeth. Finally, he said, his voice full of excitement, a real hunt with a real plan. Echo's ears twitched with approval. Like the pack hunting you told us about. Even Razor looked interested, though he still seemed disappointed that he wouldn't get to fight all the raiders by himself. Remember, Jinwoo said as the sound of footsteps got closer in the hallway outside, we work together. Each of you has a job to do. Trust each other and trust the plan. The footsteps stopped right outside their door. Jinwoo could hear the raiders talking in low voices, discussing how to break down the thick metal barrier. Spike disappeared into a ventilation shaft so quickly that Jinwoo barely saw him move. Echo melted into the shadows near the wall, becoming almost invisible. Razor took his position by the door, his claws extended and ready. Jinwoo pressed himself against the wall and tried to stay out of the way. His heart was beating so fast he thought the raiders might hear it. But for the first time since he had arrived on this alien world, he felt like he and the 3 young Krillians were really working as a team. The door exploded inward with a shower of sparks and metal pieces. Armed figures in dark clothing rushed into the room, their weapons ready. The real test was about to begin. War leader Thrax sat in his big chair, staring at the glowing screen in front of him. He had watched the security recording 5 times now, but he still couldn't believe what he was seeing. On the screen, his 3 impossible children moved like a perfect hunting team, working together under the guidance of the small human scientist. His assistant, a younger Krillian warrior named Vex, stood nearby with a tablet full of reports. Tell me again, Thrax said in his deep, rumbling voice. Vex looked at his tablet and read carefully. 6 raiders captured alive. 0 injuries to the cubs. 0 injuries to the human guardian. The raiders never had a chance. Thrax's jaw clicked, which was how Krillians showed they were impressed. In 3 weeks, that little human did something our best military trainers couldn't do in years. On the screen, he watched Razor charge the door just as the raiders broke through. But instead of fighting wildly like he used to, Razor was controlled and smart. He made lots of noise and kept the enemies focused on him, just like Jinwoo had taught him. At the same time, Echo appeared behind the raiders like a shadow. She used the psychological tricks Jinwoo had shown her, making scary sounds from different directions to confuse the invaders. They didn't know where the attacks were coming from. Then Spike dropped from the ceiling with stun weapons, moving so fast the raiders couldn't even see him. In less than 10 minutes, all the enemies were unconscious on the floor. They worked as a team, Thrax said, still amazed. My children actually worked together. Suddenly, the communication panel on his desk started making noise. A message was coming in. Then another message. Then another. Sir, Vex said, looking at his tablet with wide eyes. "We're getting messages from all over the galaxy." "What kind of messages?" Vex read from his screen. "The Saurian hegemony wants to hire human babysitters for their warrior children. The Ursine Confederacy is asking about human childcare techniques. The Reptilian Empire wants to know if humans can teach their younglings patience." More messages kept coming. Thrak counted them as they appeared on a screen. 17 different species, he said with amazement, all asking for the same thing. Thrak walked to the big window in his office. Through the thick glass, he could see into the nursery where his 3 children lived. But what he saw there made his heart feel strange. Razor was teaching his younger siblings something new. He moved slowly and carefully, showing them how to attack from the side instead of charging straight ahead. This was something Jean Wu had taught him about human military tactics. Echo was practicing too, but not with her claws. She was learning how to read faces and body language, studying pictures of different alien species on a tablet. Jean Wu had taught her that understanding people was just as important as being able to fight them. Spike, the youngest, was doing the hardest exercise of all. He was sitting perfectly still, not moving at all. Jean Wu had taught him about patience, about waiting for the right moment instead of attacking immediately. "They're still dangerous predators," Thrak said to himself. "But now they think before they hunt." His children had always been strong and fast and deadly. But Jean Wu had given him something no Krillian teacher ever could, the ability to work together and think about their actions. "Sir," Vex interrupted his thoughts. "What should I tell all these species who want human childcare specialists?" Thrak was quiet for a long moment, thinking. For thousands of years, Krillians had believed that strength was the most important thing. They had taught their children to be fierce and independent warriors. But Jean Wu had shown them something different. "Send a message to Dr. Kim," Thrak finally said. "Tell him the Krillian Empire wants to make a deal. We want to trade knowledge with the humans." "What kind of deal, sir?" "We'll teach them our military technology and our bioenhancement science. They'll teach us their childcare methods." Thrak smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "It seems the galaxy has been wrong about humans. They're not weak. They're just strong in a different way." Over the next few days, news about Jean Wu and the 3 young Krillians spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed ships. Every warrior species had heard the same story. 3 impossible predator children had been tamed by a single human scientist. But they hadn't been tamed exactly. They had been taught to use their natural abilities in smarter ways. Species that had never paid attention to humans before started sending messages to Earth. They wanted to learn about human psychology, human teamwork methods, and human patience techniques. Jean Wu didn't know it yet, but he had started something much bigger than just babysitting 3 alien children. He had begun a revolution in how the galaxy thought about strength and intelligence. On his tablet, Thrak read message after message from military leaders, scientists, and government officials across dozens of worlds. They all wanted the same thing. They wanted to learn from the soft humans who had somehow succeeded where their own warriors had failed. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the biggest changes came not from having the strongest weapons or the fastest ships, but from understanding others and working together. And it all started because one human scientist was brave enough to babysit 3 alien teenagers who could have killed him with their bare hands. Jean Wu had no idea that he was about to become the most famous babysitter in galactic history.